in there now, lads. Time, please. The Long Walk was the name of that song there, and that is not a song that will be included on the very first LP from the host, because that's on the B side of the single. It's a longer version of the single. The A side of the single will be on the album. Am I right? Eamon Carr, Charles O'Connor, and Johnny Finn.
Yes.
Yes, the
A side is called, of course, Walk on Love.
All right, well, listen, wait a minute now. I think we should start at the beginning. The host.
Well, before you do, I think a very serious message should be broadcast for the producer of the album, Robbie McGrath, who is currently missing with a roll of master tape, and he's needed in Lombard Studios to finish the mixing tonight.
Robbie McGrath, get your bottom to Lombard Studios.
He's a tall lad with a pint in his hand.
Right, let's see, where do we begin? Those three names should ring a few bells. If they don't, I think you better start filling us in. You were in Horselips once, weren't you, lads?
Well, that's right. Now, that was before the war.
Oh, yeah, I remember it well. So listen, I don't know, where are we going to start? Tell us about Trial, the album, the first one from the host. The Witch Burning of Bridget Cleary in Tipperary in 1895.
Right, yes. Well, as Tony O'Brien said last night, we have our finger on the pulse. Right up to date with these modern events. Yeah, Bridget Cleary, in the lifetime of many people in this country, Irish people, husband, father, relatives and neighbours, all ganged up on a 26-year-old woman and tortured her for a couple of days and burned her to death, because they thought she was either a fairy changeling or a witch-type person. And it's a fairly horrific story. It had a profound effect on a number of people, including Yeats, who went on to write The Hosts of the Air and The Hosting of the She and all the rest of it as a result of that, possibly. And people like Gerald Gardner, who went on subsequently to write major books on the meaning of witchcraft and so on and so forth, which gave rise to a great revival in witchcraft, which was just a nature-based religion, if you like, and which has spread all over the world since. And it all started, folks, in Fethard in Tipperary.
And what about the story itself? I mean, is it one that we're all expected to know, or is it just one that you sort of dug up somewhere and said, hey, this could be good for something? A
lot of people, there's a popular folklore account of it in various sort of books, folklore books that can be found in any airport, laundrette, library, whatever. And we kicked it around a long time ago, in the days of yore, in the Horselips days, and we never got around to it because we felt bloody. But these are bloody times we live in, so we decided it was time to have a crack at it. 1984, just round the corner.
Well, where does Joe Ambrose's book, Love's Dark Light, fit into this?
In fact, Joe gave me a historical paper last year that he had dug up that threw a little more light on the subject. And we said, hang about here, we'll see what else we can find. And so when we started to research the thing, we found mountains of stuff. And we cracked on to do the album version. And Joe decided he'd go and use all the material in a book form. And the ballet has yet to come, as indeed has the tent of the book, of the dinner.
Okay, well listen, Eamon and Johnny, we know what you've been doing roughly for the last 2 years since, say, the demise of Horselips, and that's the Zen Alligators. That's been the main thing.
Well, there was a doppelganger, an Eamon Carr doppelganger in the Zen Alligators, but the real Eamon Carr is me, and I was living in the Ukraine, which is just the south of Russia, and now that I've perfected my Cossack dancing, I'm back, and Charles is also back, and I think Johnny, were you away, Johnny, or
for a couple of months, yeah.
Oh, you were away too.
Back as well, yeah.
Right, you're back. That's all right.
Well, how are you, Johnny? Welcome home, Eamon. And Charles, what have you been up to since Horselips?
What have I been up to since? Millions of things. I've basically been designing. I'll have to be truthful. I've been taking pornographic photographs for various girly magazines in London.
This is true.
Question me about it. Yes, it is slightly true. It is slightly true. Not very true. I've been doing all sorts of things.
An uplifting experience.
An uplifting experience. Great fun. Oh, much more fun than being in the band in Ireland for a while. And it was a change. So I was happy to get back though and see the people and get some work done musically, because I haven't really been doing very much in London musically, which was also nice. I've been listening a lot.
So what happens? Like, was it phone calls? Eamon sort of says, "Listen, I've got this idea. Come back, Charles."
Well, at the beginning of the year, when Eamon was working with Joe on this idea for basically a script, it started off as, I think, I was contacted because there was a possibility of doing some film music, which was a nice idea. I thought, this is great. probably instrumental as a way it started off. It developed into the idea of doing some theatre, and then it became an easy idea to do an album about it. It's something we do well together, and something that would be quite good fun. We had a lot of lyrics written around the first few months that we got the idea to do the album, and it fell together very quickly. So I came over a few months ago to do a week's rehearsal, or just to thrash out the idea of doing it, and then we had a bit more rehearsal, and then a major rehearsal before we did the album. So
And the album has now just been completed.
just finished,
And we're
except
about to
for
hear the first track.
Mhm.
So we might as well play this one because we've had The Long Walk. As I say, that's only on the B side of the single. It's not on the LP, but the A side is on the LP. So let's have this track here. This one is the second of the few we're going to play. This is called Witness Stand.
We had our eyes wide open, said we'd take things as they came. Now you curse the day that we first met and scandalize my name. Won't you please believe me? I didn't want to make you cry, but I had to do what I had to do. I could not live with lies. Was it a crime to love you? Was it a crime to love her now? Was it a crime to kiss you? Was it a crime beyond all bounds? Things just didn't work out as planned. Now I find myself on the witness stand. You're calling me a liar. You say that I'm a cheat. You swear that you were taken in. I swept you off your feet. And now you're hurt and angry, still harboring a grudge. You won't know peace until you've acted as my jury and my judge.
Right, that's a song called Witness Stand, and that's from the Trial LP, and that's from the host. Three of whom, in fact, all of whom are here. There's only three of them in the band. In fact, it sounded like a lot more on that there.
Oh, there's a host of thousands.
Sorry.
Sorry. No, we used session players. Chris Page from Some Kind of Wonderful played bass marvellously, and Sid from Say Clave, Peter Keenan, contributed keyboard noises, and it fitted in very well.
So what are the plans then for this? I mean, this is the first LP from the host. It's going to get a lot of publicity. Everybody's going to hear it. Everybody's going to want to know about it as well. And like your pedigree is whatever, blah, blah, and all the rest of it. But, I mean, 10 years later, is it the same sort of concept as Got Horselips together saying, I mean, that was even more than 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, whatever it was that motivated the thing to begin with, I think we've always worked intuitively. And if our intuition is correct this time round, we started recording this on John Lennon's birthday, and that was, I think, a good omen. I think we're right. I think what's been said directly and largely obliquely on the album is important enough, and I think it should be said now. And I think anybody who ever listened to a Horselips record or bought a Horselips record should listen to this, and I think they probably will. And I think it'll connect with people. I think it's almost like a follier upper. If people invested some of their teenage years or emotional growing up or whatever in what we were doing then, I think they might like to follow through and see what we're up to now and see what we're at now. And I think possibly we can, if they've gone awry, hopefully they'll go back on the right track.
So it is then more of a follower-upper, as you say, than, to use Jim Lockhart's words at the beginning of Horslips, forming a new idiom from scratch. It's not like that at all. It's not.
Idiom.
It's not like trying to do something totally new. Like it is a bit of a follow-on from Horslips.
Well, the sound is certainly better than any sound we've ever had on Horslips. I think the playing is a lot better than any of the playing we had on Horslips. I think it's a grittier album than any of the things we had before. So it's difficult enough. I mean, time will tell. I just think it's important that we do it now. I mean, what we do tomorrow or next week or anything else remains to be seen, but at least it's out of the system now. Maybe in next year or 6 months or 2 years, something else will be important enough to want to actually go through the hassle of the creative process and recording and all the rest of it and get it out.
So this isn't necessarily this is a new band. This is the first album, 1983, probably another one 1984, another one 1985.
I don't know, that day is gone, isn't it? I mean, most only bands like the Stones and people carry on as bands. I mean, it's great not to be a full-scale band, because a lot of the people that a full-scale band have to deal with, frankly, are wretched people, and I hope a lot of them rot in hell, you know, so I keep well away
We
from
don't
them.
have that load on our backs anymore. We're writing too fast before. We try to throw it out, and it suffered sometimes for that. I think that the Eamon's point about being a follow-up album is it is a story album again, which is something we always enjoy doing, because we like pooling our resources that way and forming an album that way, and therefore this is a good bouncing board to start off again. We can do what we want. We can actually open
Well,
a
even though
restaurant
you,
and sell,
Charles, like have
which
been
we-
away, like you've been doing something else in London, but I mean these two here, like no matter how much you say you want to get away from a lot of the people who are involved and who would bring you down, you hope they all rot in hell. I mean, since the Horslips days, you've dealt with those people again.
No,
with Sand Alligators.
Yeah, but we avoided a lot of the people that we had to work with in Horslips. Managerial
what
style
you mean,
people who are frankly ripped Horslips off and put Horslips to the wall, and emotionally assassinated Horslips, you know.
Well, a lot of the trouble there was with record companies things. I mean, RCA wasn't exactly your idea of Christmas Day.
No, the international thing was a bit of a problem, but the home thing was equally problematical.
Well, the home thing now, like before, was that it was the first Irish band set up their own label and all that, which was Oaths Records. Now this time around you're on Changeling Records, so it's the same again. Now what is this one? Is this just so that you can be in charge of every single thing right down to what's on the print of the sleeve? Now is there anything more involved? Like is it so let's bring in a few bands onto this label or anything? Is there anything like that?
Oh, again, we haven't even thought what we're going to do after the album's completed, and when the touring sort of situation arises, we can if we want. It's great. That's what's nice about it. There's no stops,
So have you found even already, like with the fact that you've set up Changeling Records, it means every single thing now is totally under your own control and you're so far extremely happy?
Absolutely. We make our own mistakes and learn from that. And we have learned a lot from having Oaths Records, a hell of a lot about the biz.
Yeah.
And the fun side of it as well, because it is good fun to have complete control over this part of this business. It's good. It's something I've missed, being in charge of being able to play music live, being able to record it, being able to put it out yourself any way you want to, make that decision yourself. So I'd say when we get around to thinking about another album, it'll take a complete turn away from this storyline or whatever. Perhaps it doesn't. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter anyway, but we can do what we want to. We'll probably...
Where did you record the LP?
Lombard Studios.
Here in Dublin. And what kind of plans have you got sort of for international whatever? I mean, besides Changeling, is Changeling just going to be sort of distributed in Ireland sort of thing? You're going to have to blast
Probably.
on something else?
It's something we haven't talked enough about yet. We're still talking about playing gigs, which is what we want to do now.
Well, that's
We've
the
done
next
album, we're
obvious
dying to
one.
get
If
that.
there's only 3 of you in the host, and if you do have extra people on the album playing things like, as you say, bass and keyboards and that, what's going to be live? I mean, it's...
Well, Chris Page has said he'll fulfil any live obligations, because he discussed it with the members of the band he's working in, some kind of wonderful, and they've given their blessing. And we have a keyboard player lined up as well, and so that should hopefully be a bit of crack. And yeah, we'll do the usual old jaunt and get out there and kick ass and raise hell or whatever it is. But to say on the old Changeling idea, well, the single was supposed to have come out